There have been a lot of questions and emails regarding our social studies skills block. Let me begin by explaining that this program was created out of a need for us to integrate our social studies with our language. Teachers are given autonomy as to how they deliver this skills block, which is supposed to last approximately 15 to 20 minutes each day. Some teachers assign the blocks as homework, and students complete them at home, and these are reviewed during the day in the classroom. Other teachers, like myself, have students complete these sheets either in the hallway in the morning before they come in at 9 o'clock, or in my case, I allow students to come into the classroom as early as 8:30, and students work to complete these activities before the school day even begins. Other teachers complete this skills block live. That is, students correct the work as they go. Students are called upon and offer suggestions for editing and for skills block, and the teacher does it basically live. Let me begin by saying that the paragraph editing portion of this program is taken directly from the social studies textbook that the county uses. The words of the textbook are typed into a Word program and then edited to make grammatical and punctuation and capitalization errors that students must correct. Students are given a reference sheet with the notations required for editing a paragraph. There are basically 5 blocks to the paragraph editing. The first 4 blocks are completed as classroom activities, with the 5th one being the actual assessment for the week. So basically, during the skills block every day, students would be required to complete one day of the paragraph editing, and then they would move on and they would complete one day of the skills block. Now, the skills block is a little bit different. There is an editing sentence. Usually this editing sentence helps to reinforce skills outside of what they're already doing in the social studies textbook work. In this case, and for quite a few weeks during the year, we practice quotation marks, we practice dialogue and punctuating dialogue. Since the social studies textbook is mostly nonfiction text, there is very little dialogue for the daily paragraph editing, and this helps to fill that gap. Below that, we have what we're calling our skills section, and one of the standards that we're working on right now at the beginning of the year is for commonly confused words. For this week, this first week, we worked on the words there, and there. Students were given substitutions to prove their answers by putting the substitution in place of the there they have chosen to make the sentence correct. I attended their dance recital. You test it by saying, I attended our dance recital. I attended here dance recital. I attended they are dance recital. The word there, T-H-E-I-R, is the word that fits into that situation. Below that are some word analogies. The way that you read a word analogy is cry is to weep as shout is to blank. Students are required to think about the relationship between the 2 words here, cry and weep, which in this case are synonyms, and they are asked to create the same relationship between the second 2 words. In this case, they would have to come up with a synonym for shout. This could be yelled, hollered, any word that is a synonym to shout. Finally, the second section of this, the second half, I should say, of this skills block for the day has a vocabulary map. Vocabulary words are taken directly from the social studies curriculum, and students are provided a basic map with the definition already created. In this lower left-hand corner is a picture. At the beginning of the year, I supplied pictures for the students already, but later on, students will be able to create their own picture to go with the word. The idea of creating a visual helps students to remember what the word means. So the picture should reflect the meaning of the word. In this box up here, the upper right-hand corner, students come up with either a synonym, an antonym, or an example of an elevation. And then finally, they use this word in a sentence. The activity and time they spend around this word completing the vocabulary map helps their brain to store that vocabulary word in a place that they can later retrieve it. So far, we've looked at the fact that each day students will complete a block of paragraph editing and a block of skills. So what happens on day 5? Because this is a program that works on a 5-day rotation, students will complete the first 4 blocks in class as a group. But on day 5, we have the assessment piece. Now on day 5, students are given another paragraph in which to edit. However, the format of this is slightly different. Rather than using the notations for editing, students are given options. So basically, the assessment points out exactly where the mistakes are and gives students choices, usually 3 choices, in which to choose what belongs there. This is a really important assessment piece because students will be exposed to this type of a format when they take the state test at the end of the year. They will be required to edit paragraphs and demonstrate their knowledge of language use and conventions. In the computer-based test, they will have drop-down boxes in which to choose. In trying to come up with a format similar to that, this was our decision, to come up with boxes, basically brackets, in which students would bubble the answer that they see. So when a student is taking the assessment, they would read, a wetland is land, a wetland are land, a wetland were land. And the correct answer is. A wetland is land that has water on or near the surface of the soil. In this box here, students would have to recognize the fact that the sentence has ended and a new sentence is beginning. Now, notice the obvious answer choices here. Soil with a lowercase, which it should be because of its placement in the sentence, and then only with a capital. This answer choice should kind of trigger students to wonder whether or not this is the end of the sentence. And it should also help them to realize that this could not possibly be the answer, since you would not capitalize a word in the middle of a sentence unless it was a proper noun or some kind of a title. Choice B is also obviously incorrect because you would not capitalize the word soil. It is not being used as part of a title or a proper noun. Finally, choice C would be the choice that would be correct. The sentence ends, so there's a period. A new sentence begins, so there's a capital letter O. Notice down here, we have a test here for our there, and there that we have been practicing all week. There are basically 15 different corrections that students should make, and this format will be followed pretty closely throughout the year and should not change much. Okay, so that's the language. Well, where does the social studies assessment come from? Well, the social studies assessment is pretty basic. It begins with questions on the vocabulary words that were learned through the week, and students have to place the word into the sentence. I'd like to remind parents that students actually have the blue sheets that they have completed all week in front of them, and previous week's blue sheets have been placed into the binder that students can access at any time during the assessments. So students have all the tools from which to refer to when taking this assessment, meaning basically that they have a sheet with the definitions of these 4 words so that they can figure out where they should be placed in the blanks. The other thing I'd like to point out is that since the words are spelled correctly right in front of students and that students are merely copying them onto the line, they are held accountable for spelling. If students transfer the word incorrectly, they will get that question wrong. In addition, anytime a word is being used as a proper noun or occurs in the beginning of a sentence, the answer choice is going to be capitalized already for them. So if they transfer the word, in this case, Western Hemisphere is being used as a proper noun in this sentence, if they transfer the word without capitalizing it, it is also incorrect. After the first 4 questions on the test, students will be asked a series of questions in which they must choose one or more answers that are correct. In all cases, students will be told that there is more than one answer if a multiple of answers are required. These formats will change a little bit in order to expose students to some of the formatting that they will see on the state test at the end of the year. So in some cases, they may have to bubble in 3 answers, or they may have to check all of the things that apply using check boxes, or they may need to answer with an extended response question. Now, these assessments have been designed to be the easiest assessments possible. The questions themselves are all low-level recall questions. You cannot ask a lower-level question unless you ask a question that relies totally on a student's background knowledge. These questions come straight from the text, meaning that if a student read the question, "How was the Florida Peninsula formed?" and went back into the text, and when I refer to the text, I'm talking about the paragraph editing for day 1 through day 5. So this includes each day's block that was edited as a group, plus the paragraph that students read when they had their assessment for language. So all 5 paragraphs now become the text from which these questions are drawn. And as I said, they are all lower level questions. They are what some students and teachers call right there. I like to call these questions, what color is the yellow raincoat questions? What color is the yellow raincoat? The yellow raincoat is yellow. If students put forth the effort to go back into the text to find their answers, they will get these questions correct. Many students who are not performing well on social studies tests are not referencing their blue sheets. In conferencing with students who have performed poorly, they inevitably tell me that they relied on their memory to answer the question rather than going back into the text. Going back into the text is a really important skill and habit that students need to develop very early in the year in order to perform well. If you are trying to help your child improve their social studies grade, please help them to develop this habit, the habit of relying on text rather than memory when answering these questions. If we go down to the bottom of this assessment, we can see that we have an extended response question, why are wetlands important? Now notice that students are given 2 very clear hints that they're going to have to provide 3 reasons for wetlands to be important. Not only is it indicated here, but it's indicated here. This is question 13, 14, and 15. Be careful. If you subtract these, you only get 2. but if you count them as question numbers, you get 3. Students in this case are required to go back into the text. Remember, these are text-based questions, and the answer should come back from the text, not from their background information. When they answer this question, they should begin. Wetlands are important for 3 reasons. First, second, third. When answering a question completely by answering the question and all of its parts, stating where the information comes from, and explaining how this shows that wetlands are important, are really good habits to get into when answering extended response questions. I hope this video was helpful to explain a little bit about our social studies curriculum and how it is integrated into our language skills block. Thank you for listening.